Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's the commish, back here with week 3 previews. Great week 2. Well, no, it was a disaster week 2, but I'm not going to get into that. I just want to get into the previews for our teams. So, first up, I got Robert and Templars 2-0. Taking on Stanton, BC Lions 1-1, and this one's titled "Not Letting Go." I mean, Templars, 3-time East champ, 3 straight, and obviously Longyard has brought new competition in the East this year. But Templars hoping on Aaron Jones' return and having the fact that Jesse James is the best tight end in fantasy on his squad right now. So, looking at BC Lions, well, Will Disley, 3rd best tight end. Who would have thought that one coming? And then, Zerora lines out, so it looks like Matt Prater will get his turn at kicker in this one. And, way I see it, Yeldon's going to go down here in fantasy because it looks like Fournette's going to start. So BC Lions is my pick in this one. Next one, it's me, the commish, or business, 1-1 versus Milan in the 6, 2-0. I got it dubbed the original matchup, 2 original teams. Looking at my lineup, no run game. I got nothing. Jordan Wilkins, he's my best running back at 18.9. I mean, yeah, I'm glad Wilkins pitched in 18.9, but don't really want him to be my number 1 right now. And looking at the 6, well, he's got a healthy run game. I mean, 5th and 6th best in all fantasy with Barkley and Thompson. But in lieu of that, it doesn't matter. I'm still picking the commish to win this one. You're going down Milan, and both teams will be 2-1. Next up, I got Brian in the 12th man at 1-1. He'll take on Luke at Too Good for a Name at 0-2. For this one, it's the aftermath of the Le'Veon trade. I mean, looking at it, 12th man, there's glaring weakness there at tight end. You got Uzuma at 8.1, Thomas 3.5. For Too Good for a Name, the aftermath. So the Le'Veon trade, will he fall to tier 2 because of it? 0-2. But he can look at the fact that he does have the best linebacker in football and Darius Leonard. But looking at this one, I'm going to have to give the win to Brian in the 12th man. I think he goes to 2-1, and Luke will fall to 0-3. Next up, I got Lucas and Green Lightning sitting at 1-1. He'll take on Glenn and Saving Matt's Ryan at 0-2. Looking at this one, it's like, what next? What next for both teams, really? I mean, Saving Ryan, you need an upset big time. I mean, bottom 3 right now is where you sit, 19th. You need a savior, and maybe Jordan Matthews might be that savior. I mean, time will only tell. Green Lightning, well, Carson Wentz is back. I mean, it can't feel better to get him back. And then also looking at your defense, you got the Jets. They're the 2nd best in fantasy. So because of that, I'm going to go winner, Green Lightning. I think that Jets defense gets the job done against that Cleveland Browns offense, which is horrible. Next up, Sean and Fallen Misfits, 1-1. He's going to take on Matthew Cape Cod Sharks, 1-1. It's going to be a good one. I got the Fallen Arises. The reason why I got this, Sean, now that's a big win. Big win there over Nathan's Lobos, knocking him to 0-2. One of the favorites to have a good record. And you can thank Patrick Mahomes. I had him. I traded him to you. I regret it. I kept Jimmy G over Mahomes. Mahomes now the 2nd best quarterback in fantasy, and looks like the real deal. Whereas, with Cape Cod Sharks, looking at him, McCoy's ribs. I mean, how important is that going to be? The run game, he was horrible anyway. Marcus Murphy was outscoring him in fantasy. But looking at it, you also have the best running back in fantasy in Alvin Kamara. But I am going to go with Sean. He's going to continue the streak, and I got Fallen Misfits winning this one. Next up, I got Ryan and Deuce Bomber sitting at 1-1, taking on John and Nathan's Lobos 0-2. I got 2 powers explode here. I mean, the reason why these I have that title is because teams have good points this year. But looking at John's team, it's hard to believe he's at 0-2, but maybe it's not when you look at the 2nd pick in the draft, Ronald Jones. I mean, we saw what he's done so far. He's been an absolute bust. And, I mean, you look at Deuce. I mean, he could be 2-0, but obviously rolled the dice going with Marcus Mariota. Didn't pay off. Got the loss in the game of the week. And now you go with Andy Dalton. Paid a 5th round for him. Bit steep for Dalton, but Dalton's looked good so far. I originally had John winning this one. I'm changing the pick. I'm going to go Ryan and Deuce Bombers now. Next up, I got Krista and Storm 0-2 taking on Susan Fighting Geese at 1-1. It's the battle of the girls in this one. I mean, they're obviously M. Unique is the third female, but I mean, these two have been here from the beginning. Looking at Kristen Storm, RW3, Russell Wilson, he looks pathetic. He looks awful. And, when you look at your lineup, Dougie Baldwin, Devontae Freeman, they're out. And when I look at Geese, well, great rebound win after losing by 0.24 in the stat correction of the 12th man. Just a really shitty win there, or loss. But you're looking at Landry so far. It looks like he might be questionable. That'll be something to watch, but still good depth on the wide receivers for sure. And with the injury to McCoy, Marcus Murphy might be relevant. I originally had Krista winning this one. I'm going with Susan fighting Geese now. Next up, I got Danny and Billsy Bob's 0-2. He's going to take on Ryan in Longyard 2-0. I could title this one Walk in the Park. It's going to be a walk in the park for Longyard. He's got the three-headed monster at running back. He's the second highest scorer in the league. Already mentioned he has 3 of the top 4 score running backs in the league. And then Billsy Bob's dead last. I mean, you were here 2 years ago in your first year in the league. You're back here again. So obviously you're waiting for Julian Edelman to come back, but with JG there now, who's now on Longyard's team, also with the Pats. This is going to be a cakewalk. Probably should have been the stinker of the week, to be honest, but Longyard in Walk in the Park in this one. Next up, stinker of the week. Yeah, you guessed it. It's going to be Brandon and the Architect 1-1. He's going to take on M. Unique, Ellie Island 1-1. Low scores get the toilet here, guys. I mean, Ellie Island, lowest scoring team in the league. Architect, third lowest scoring team in the league. For Ellie Island, no, nice close win. I mean, knocking out Billsy Bob's, knocking him the dead last instead of yourself. That was a huge win to try to stay alive in this league. Brandon and the Architect, the leads are weak, man. The leads are weak. I mean, what a upset you got on Nathan Lopez, but what a pathetic rebound effort in week 2. But, you got Isaiah Crowell heading to Cleveland. He's looking for payback. Should be interesting to see. Winner in this one, I had Ellie Island at first. I'm changing it. I'm going to believe in Brandon and the Architect winning this one. Next up, the game of the week, and it's going to be a thriller. And yeah, it's Christian True North again. I mean, 2-0, perfect season last year in the regular season. Here he is going perfect again. He'll take on Chris and Basin Street Bullies 2-0, who had a perfect season in Tier 3 his first year in the format and only lost once in Tier 2, winning the championship in both those leagues to finally get here in his first league. It's North versus South. Obviously, Bullies is keeping the trend going with that. Who's contributing? Michael Thomas, third best wide receiver in fantasy. Kelsey, the fourth best tight end in fantasy. Looking at True North, when will Fitz start? I mean, 107.06 fantasy points. Chris hasn't turned to Fitz magic yet. Maybe it's time. Against that, Pittsburgh Steelers defense that doesn't look very good. Speaking of defense, you got the Chicago Bears best defense in fantasy. Khalil Max made a difference there. And you also have the best defensive lineman in fantasy in DeForest Buckner. But there's one key thing in this weekly matchup for you, Christian True North, and that's the injury to Joe Mixon. I think because of that, it's going to be Chris and Basin Street Bullies who will stay undefeated. It's going to be an awesome week 3. I'm not watching the Sunday Nighter. Fuck you, Josh Jordan, Goodell, the NFL, and just not happy about it. You know that.